Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another predictions video. And in today's video, I'm going to be predicting the Niyomtrong versus Winwood fight. And so, if you're new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Like video if you're doing a live video, and let's get straight into it. So, going into this fight, Niyomtrong is 24-0 with 9 KOs, and Winwood is 4-0 with 2 KOs. Niyomtrong or CP Freshmart, depending on how you refer to him. This fight is for the WBA World Minimum Weight title. Niyomtrong's last fight was a win via unanimous decision versus Moonsri in 2022. Winwood's last fight was a win via unanimous decision versus Ganoza. Niyomtrong is 33 and Winwood is 27. Niyomtrong has been pro since 2012. This is in Winwood's home country of Australia, and it is Niyomtrong's first time fighting outside of Asia. And to speak a bit more about what I've just been saying, like I say, this is the return of Niyomtrong, the return of CP Freshmart. He's been out for a while, just seemingly inactive. I'm not too sure if it's due to injuries or anything like that, but in general, he's been seemingly inactive. To be honest, he was never really the most active of champions in general, but this has been a long time out, and he's been linked with multiple different fights. He's a name which I've always seen them mentioned around the minimum weight division, but of course now it's taken a while for him to get back in the ring. But like I mentioned, we're now seeing him back, and he's definitely an interesting name to have around. And to be honest, the most convincing champion that we've had in this minimum weight division so far, and the most just, I don't know, consistent champion, I suppose, at the same time, with the 11 defences. And it's really impressive. It's what he's achieved, and he's probably going to go down in that kind of Hall of Fame type status just from what he's achieved in having them 11 defences. But this is going to be an interesting test to see what he's like. Of course, on being, getting onto the older side now, and 33 isn't really too old, but when you're not really fighting that actively, and like I say, you have been fighting for a long time, it does kind of take a bit of a toll, and it's typically the spell or the sign of a fighter possibly onto the latter side of their career. But at the same time, Winwood is someone who, yes, is an Olympian, and yes, has progressed very well and kind of looked very impressive with every fight he's had so far. But this is a big step up for him, and I hope he's aware of that. He seems confident, and he seems to acknowledge Niyomtrong and his achievements as a champion, but I think he possibly might be coming in this maybe a bit too overconfident. I'm not too sure, but like I say, it's interesting the way that his career has progressed. I mean, of course, like I mentioned, he's a former Olympian, and I believe he lost to Galao fight in the Olympics, which is, not a bad thing at all. But he's also been at the Commonwealth Games, and in general had that big back in, and kind of was expected to just come into the pro ranks and just be able to be progressed very quickly. And he's on track. I mean, if he wins this one, he is, from what I believe, the quickest Australian world champion ever. So, that's a very impressive feat and a very impressive title to hold in itself. And he was thrown into titles from his first professional fight, and that being like Australian titles. But still, he got thrown straight in, and he's fought and beaten guys. He's fought guys with 20 20 wins and minimal losses. And so he has progressed very well and very quickly, and he's been developing well. But possibly this could be too soon for Winwood. We will have to wait and see. And of course, this Winwood, like I say, home country. He's used to having this Australian backing with him. But of course, from the amateurs, that Olympic experience has shown that he can fight outside of Australia and still have success. Something with Niyomtrong is we haven't really seen him outside of Asia. Like I mentioned, he's had all but from what I remember, one professional fight in Thailand, and the other one was in China. So he's never really fought too far away from home. He's never really fought somebody who has been, really up for it and really coming with this momentum and things like that. And he's seemingly maybe not picked his opponents, because some of the opponents in which he's faced have been a very high level, and he's been in some amazing fights, but they just maybe have just made sense for him in the time. But to speak about them both individually as fighters, Niyomtrong, of course, he's experienced. He has that experienced style. He kind of knows what to expect from a lot of opponents and knows how to counteract a lot of different styles, as of course he's faced a lot of different ones, and that is something in which of course Winwood won't have over Niyomtrong, having experience a lot of different professional styles is something, of course, Niyomtrong has over Winwood. He seems relatively relaxed in his style, and he has a typically nice, quite strong guard a lot of the time, except from sometimes when he's being on the offense, in which he does sometimes drop his guard. He has typically a high IQ, a high fight IQ. He's got good counters, good timing as well. The power isn't anything crazy, but it seems like he has the IQ to be able to, you know, wear out opponents and wait for them, but then come on at the right times and things like that. He definitely won't be bullied. If he is going onto the back foot and taking punishment, he's good at just flipping the switch and then going onto the front foot, forcing his way onto the front foot. He can fight on the front or the back foot. In general, I think he is quite efficient in his work. I think a lot of the shots he throws, they're not always the most accurate, but he's not really wasting too much work. And in general, it shows that he can go all the rounds relatively well. And, at Winwood, I believe this might be his first 12 round, if not his second one. And so he's definitely not been, he's seen that he can fight 10-round distances really well, but he hasn't fought a 12-round distance yet. So that is, of course, like I say, another experiencing. He's patient in a lot of his works, Niyomtrong. Good mid-range type fight, and I think his straight shots are excellent. He can push you back, like I mentioned, whenever he fancies, and in general, he changes levels nicely. Negatives about him, I think he can lunge in and overcommit in quite often a lot of his work, which is not always the best of things if he is doing that continuously. I think his chin can be in the air and his head on the line. I think Winwood's head movement is much more superior, and Niyomtrong, like I say, does have them tendencies to not really move his head and have his head as quite an obvious target. I don't think in general he throws that many powerful punches. Sometimes he can time you onto a really nice shot, but in general I don't think a lot of his punches are overly powerful. His speed and his balance in his footwork isn't really always amazing. I think he can look relatively weak, maybe in his legs. Like, it just looks like whenever he takes a big shot, it just looks like it really crumbles him down to his legs, and that isn't always seemingly the best trait to have. His straight line movements, it seems like he will just go back and forth in a straight line a lot of the time. He admires his work, I think, as well. Can be outthrown, in which is something which might be interested, because Winwood has a tendency to fight at a good tempo, but can also be outthrown in the process, and I think he's been shown that he can be as well. Winwood as a fighter though, I think he's, like I mentioned, got excellent head movement. I think he rolls with punches really nicely, and that's how he can get in close. I think he wants to be in range a lot more than that of Niyomtrong, but does have a good jab at the same time to be able to, if he's not in range, I think he can fight in close or at mid range. He puts on the pressure. He has a nice compact guard, and in general, I think he's got a good base, a good solid base, which is always nice to see, especially for the smaller fighters where I think they can do that. He has good body work. Typically, like I say, fights at a good tempo. It's not really too high where he's wearing himself out, but it's not too slow where he's just not throwing enough. I think consistently it's a good tempo, and like I've said, he's shown that he can go all the rounds relatively well. Well, 10 rounds. He walks you down continuously and typically is going to be in front of your face. So Niyomtrong is really going to have to try pushing back at times, I believe. He has good balance. He has fast hands. He finds openings very, very well. I think a lot of the work he's gonna throw and gonna land, it's probably gonna be very clean that he's gonna land with. Typically, it seems like he's quite spiteful with his work. He's not crazily powerful either, but when he wants to be and when he wants to dig to the body, it looks spiteful. And like I say, it seems like he's confident coming into this fight. Negatives about him, I think he ducks his head down. I think physically he's not really that strong. So if Niyomtrong does try to put him on the back foot, it will be interesting to see how he deals with that. I think he doesn't really go for counters enough. He can, when he has, it looks excellent, and he's dropped opponents when he has gone for counters, and his timing is good, but I just don't think he throws or tries to go for enough counters in general, and sometimes that's where he can be outthrown. Going onto the back foot, I don't think he's too comfortable when he is just going onto the back foot. I think he can just cover up at times. He can be drawn into a fight when he is digging to the body. Cutting off the ring is something which is, like I say, not really too amazing from himself, even though he is on the front foot a lot. He stays in range a bit too long. I think the consistency with his jab isn't always excellent. I think he gets a bit too comfortable trying to get in close, and that's where the consistent jab can kind of go. And finding range in general is something in which I think he struggles with a little bit, whereas Niyomtrong, I think, finds range well, and like I say, can be outthrown at times like Niyomtrong. So it will be interesting to see who's the one with the higher output, who's the one landing the more cleaner shots out of the two. Niyomtrong is the favourite for this fight, and I think that Winwood will win via TKO in round 8. It's perhaps a bold statement to say, but I think Winwood is going to be able to wear down Niyomtrong, go to the body, and be able to get inside, get in close, be able to get past the shots in which Niyomtrong throws. Niyomtrong might be able to push him back a bit at times, but I think he's going to be really determined to just keep coming forwards. And like I say, if he can make Niyomtrong uncomfortable and showcase that his footwork isn't really amazing, I believe Niyomtrong will be slowing down and will end up, like I say, getting stopped, which will be a huge statement win for Winwood. And in general, I think the minimum weight division, as of recent, has had a bit of a shake-up, of course, with both the Shigeoka brothers losing. That's, like I said, really shaking things up a little bit. So who he could go on to fight next after, like I said, a huge win, I think he could definitely do with a title defence before he goes into go fight on the other champions, because the champions at the moment don't really seem the strongest. We've got Jerusalem, Paro, Collazo, and I might be missing somebody else. But like I said, I don't feel like they're the overly strongest at the moment. So possibly someone like a Dus Matov is somebody who's highly ranked and a bit of an unknown, but highly ranked. So that could be someone. Yudai Shigioka could be a good option. I wouldn't be against seeing Winwood versus Yudai Shigioka. Or Mendez is another highly ranked fighter who has had a few losses, but is still highly ranked in all the ranking bodies. Possibly, down the line, if Winwood gets an impressive victory and keeps developing, and if Collazo gets a big victory and keeps developing, that is a fight in which it could be a huge fight to make for the minimum weight division, and perhaps Winwood comes in and slides in and take that position in which Jinjaro Shigioka once had, where Jinjaro was said to be the next guy to challenge Collazo and the only person in the division to be able to challenge Collazo, but of course he lost. Not saying he can't come back, but Winwood might be able to slide in and take that spot now. But yeah, that's it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like if you did, like video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.